Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Writing Life. I'm Stephen W. Long. I'm so pleased to have Mike Santone as our guest today. And Mike, if you watched anything that has to do with McMinnville, you know Mike already. He's just been involved in so many aspects of art and writing and so on. And so today we're going to talk about paper gardens. But let me just, Mike, before we get going, say I'm proud of the city, or I'm proud of the art movement here, and particularly paper gardens. I think it's just such an integral and an important part of the writing scene in McMinnville. So, welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the Arts Alliance started paper gardens
Yeah.
when Rachel Burchard came to the Arts Alliance and said, you know, I really want to do a writing contest.
Yeah.
And this was in 1992.
Okay.
And for years, the Paper Gardens actually runs through the school year. Right now we call it Paper Gardens 2020 or Paper Gardens 2019.
Right.
You know, but actually in the beginning it was Paper Gardens 1992, 93. 93, 94.
Oh, because of the school year.
Because it went across the school year.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is that what Rachel said is, I want it to be a premier writing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so she went to the Oregon Poet Laureate, who was William Stafford.
Right.
And that was the first judge, William Stafford. And every time she's tried to find judges, the various coordinators have tried to find judges that have published and are established,
Right.
and stuff. And for a long time, it was one judge that did everything. Because
Right.
Paper Gardens, from the very beginning, was youth from age 6 to about age 12, 13.
Okay.
Then youth from 14 to 18.
So children and then youth.
Children, youth, and then adult.
Right.
So there's always been 3 categories, and there's always been a reach to the various grade school, middle school, high school, and the adult population to stimulate the writing life
Right.
of our community, and it's been incredibly successful. The interesting thing about this year is that the first judge was William Stafford.
Right.
The judge for poetry this year is his son,
Right.
Kim Stafford.
Right.
Right. But a few years ago, there were so many people entering, so many kids entering
Right.
the different categories, because it's not just poetry.
Right.
It's prose and poetry, stories, haiku, and it was more than one judge. So a few years ago, we basically started having 2 judges, one for poetry and then one for prose. And they do all the prose for both the children, the youth, and stuff as well.
Pretty cool.
And then also every year, including this year, every year, there's been a chapbook
Right.
published of all of the selections from the judges, both, and they're in the categories youth, children, and adult. The other feature of Paper Gardens, and I'm dumping this all out right at the beginning.
Right.
The other feature is that there's also usually it used to be in April, but now it's sort of the first or second week of May, a gathering to read of the winners, to read
the celebration.
The celebration
Right.
of the published chapbook. And the thing there is that it brings the families of the children, it brings the families of the youth and the adults into one place, and then youth and children get to see adults read. adults get to encourage children to read.
Right.
I mean, it is an event that really is a celebration, and I think it really helps continue and
It really fosters that, and I love that it seems to me what the celebration is a recognition and it's support, and
Right.
and I think that's particularly important for the kids.
Oh yeah, and the 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 reactions when a second grader gets up and reads their poem, and their parents and the people, it's priceless.
Right.
And who knows what that means for a writer later, that experience,
Well, sure.
you know, and I think that has helped our community foster the wonderful writing life that we have. We have writing groups. We have
Lots.
a
Yep.
lot of different critique groups.
Sure.
We have script writing groups. We have, I mean, a prolifery of things to encourage writing. We have a number of open mics where people can come
That's right.
and
Yeah.
read their poetry or
Yeah.
read their stories, and not just once in a while, but sometimes 2 and 3 times a month.
It's real regular. So the gallery at Ten Oaks is one,
Yeah.
and now Mecca has started that, and they have an open mic as
Right,
well.
right. And actually some of the music venues,
Okay.
I've done some at I'm at Tasting Room there on 3rd Street.
Well, I know you've been involved in almost every aspect.
But we've done some spoken word with
Sure.
music behind.
Sure. Okay.
And then there's some of those kinds of things. And I feel like Paper Gardens is one of those continuous programs that just underlays all of the other live things that are going on, because
That's it. I hadn't thought of it like that. That's a good way to put it.
yeah, because it's all volunteer.
Right.
I mean, that was the other thing that Rachel said, and what has been
And by the way, Rachel was a poet herself.
yes,
Yeah,
oh
right.
yes. In fact, that the Paper Gardens comes from a line from one of her poems.
Okay.
And we published it in one of the books.
I remember reading that.
But what she wanted was that in order to foster that professionalism, is we pay. Well, some of the poets give us back the money, but
Yeah.
but we actually pay a stipends, a meager stipends.
Right.
But a recognition
For the judge.
For the judge,
Right.
because they put in a huge amount of work. I mean, when you're faced with several hundred,
Sure.
works, and you have to pick.
Well, I know not only are there now 2 judges,
Right.
and by the way, I wanted to mention within those categories, so prose and poetry, within each of those there are segments.
Right.
So prose could be essay, it could be, so it's nonfiction, it's fiction. And then in poetry, you had mentioned traditional, haiku, free form, and so on.
Freeform, and I think poetry of place.
Poetry of place. Additionally, and I think this was a reaction to so much material coming in, is I know at least in the prose, they've cut it down now to 1,000-word limit, where it used to be 2,000.
Yeah.
And I think it was just so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 1,000 words, that's called, nowadays that's called flash fiction.
You're right.
And it really does make a writer condense what they're saying. Every
Sure.
word has to count.
Sure.
And there are a lot of venues now for flash fiction. So I think it really helps a judge, though. In fact, I think at one point it was 2,500 words.
Really. Yeah.
And you get several of those, and it's
Well, yeah.
yeah.
If you get 100 of those, that's a novel.
Yeah, and the youth and the children is all free. There's no entry
Right.
fee or anything. For adults, I think it's a meager
$10.
Amount for entry, but it's still nowhere near like
Right.
what the the other literary contests and stuff
Right.
charge.
And and Mike, I think probably that helps support publishing the book, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you win, you get a book,
Right.
but you can certainly buy a book.
Yeah, and the books are, fairly reasonable.
Right.
And they're really only, I think we print 100 of them.
Okay.
Um,
I would have thought more, but
no, I think it's
okay.
usually just about 100.
Okay.
Sometimes, families will buy 2 or 3,
Sure.
and sometimes it's 200. But it's expensive to print them. We're lucky. What is the other thing that's held up Paper Gardens all these years? In the beginning, it was Ken Myers and his wife,
Okay.
who basically funded the printing. They did the layout. They took it to the printer,
Yeah.
and they were little stapled
Okay.
pamphlets.
It'd be fun to have one of those.
Yeah,
I don't,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I have some.
yeah.
It's little staple pamphlets.
Uh-huh.
And then maybe in the late 90s, around 2000, Marilyn Works,
Right.
who's a bookmaker.
Right.
And
The
so-
legal kind,
Uh-huh.
the bookmaker.
Yeah. Yeah. She doesn't take bets. But she donated
Right.
and handmade
Right. They're
uh,
fabulous.
absolutely beautiful books.
Right.
Beautiful. And then recently, Gail Watson, who's been producing these books.
Sure.
And both of those donating their time, expertise,
Yeah.
and stuff has helped Paper Garden survive.
Right.
Also, the coordinators, like Deborah Wiener,
Right,
who's
right.
been coordinating, and she builds a team
Yeah.
of people she goes around, and the various teams go around to the different schools, and I mean, it takes a lot of time.
Lisa Olin Harris, I think, probably is involved in that as well.
Lisa?
Yeah, do you know her? Lisa
Oh,
Olin
yeah,
Harris?
yeah. I don't know if she's working with Paper Gardens or is involved with Fire Writers.
Okay.
Now, Fire Writers is another one of Deborah Wiener's things
Okay.
that is a school-based, youth-based
Right.
workshop, actually coming up next Monday. And they bring in writers to do workshops with students.
Oh,
from the
that's great.
schools. Beautiful program.
Yeah.
This is its second year.
Okay.
But with Paper Gardens, when I coordinated it, I think I coordinated in 2006, and then again 2000, maybe 13, 14,
Okay.
15, 16, something like
Okay.
2 or 3 years, and then Deborah took over.
Yeah.
The various coordinators pulled together a team, and they go out to the schools and they go to the businesses and that kind of stuff. We write grants.
Right.
Oftentimes we get a grant. We have gotten a grant from the Cultural Coalition different times.
Now, just let me interrupt. I think isn't it the Cultural Coalition that is going to provide the venue for the celebration?
The Cultural Coalition, the Yamahill County Cultural Coalition, is a funding organization
Okay.
countywide that funds cultural events
Right.
and things. The Chehalem Cultural Center
The Cultural Center.
is,
You're right.
is in Newburgh,
Right.
a reconditioned school.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful school. Yeah, and they're donating their meeting space
Okay.
to.
So that's where it's going to be.
That's where the celebration will be. That's where it was last year. We had it here in McMinnville at the one year we had it. Some years we had it out at the community college.
Right.
Then we outgrew that. It's too many people.
Okay.
We could. So then we had it at the community center here.
That's
But
what
now-
I remember. Yeah.
And then the cultural center in Newburgh is even bigger yet.
Sure.
So I think last year and the year before, I think we've had over 200 people
Yeah.
or more.
And Mike, before we get too far, there's a couple of dates. If you're going to enter this year, February 28th,
Right.
and they have to have received it. Don't mail it then. They have to have received it by
It
then.
has to have a postmark.
Right. And, oh, is it? Okay, I thought they
Postmark.
actually had to have it in hand. And then May 7th is the celebration.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is, it is at the Cultural Center in Newburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody waits till the last week, the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks of February,
Yeah.
and then, but some of us enter early, you know.
Well, a couple of things I was going to say. You've won.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so have you.
Well, yeah.
No.
Yeah. But I was going to ask, do you remember the first thing you did? The first entry that you made?
Yeah.
I just wondered if that resonated with you.
Yeah, what happened with me when I did a story called Leftover Soup,
Okay.
and it was the first thing, it was a flash fiction,
Okay.
and I'd been on I announced and
Right.
but this was the first time I actually got up
Because
and
you'd
was-
stepped away from that, right?
Right,
Yeah,
I stepped
right.
away, and so, I got up and read, and suddenly it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
and I actually got emotional as I was reading, because the thing about fiction is if a writer needs to feel it,
Right.
and then standing up there in front of 200 people.
Yeah.
And really, it was like it started. I got nervous
Sure.
and stuff. But reading the poetry wasn't as hard.
Uh-huh.
But it was. It resonated with me.
Yeah.
And it is an interesting. It really does validate.
I think that's the perfect word. Yeah. People, I've said this about my writing, and I think people write for different reasons, self-expression and so on. By and large, it's not a monetary thing. For most people, they don't make any money, but it is validation that, and this is me. I produced this thing, and your reaction tells me it has some value.
Yeah.
And so that was.
Well, and that's the other thing about open mics.
Yeah.
And those venues where writers can get up and read, and because it does the same thing.
Sure.
You bring a piece of work, and it's different in a critique group, because
Definitely.
the critique group you're expecting people to respond in a more substantive way.
Right.
And actually give you a critique.
Right.
Whereas.
Which is, you're somewhat vulnerable in that situation.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
you have to. But if it's a critique of you're expected. I mean,
That's why you're there.
Yeah, that's why you're there.
Yeah.
In order to, somebody who critiques and says, "Oh, I like that a lot, thanks." Doesn't
That's
help.
almost not helpful.
Yeah, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
It's like, so. But if you're actually doing it as a performance, then that's fine.
Right.
Then it's
Right.
because
Right.
that's you don't want somebody saying, "Don't say that."
Yeah.
But so critique groups have their value, but also those venues where you get to set it.
Yeah.
Paper Gardens is, this is what, the 27th year?
Yep.
So, continuous volunteer supported program that's just absolutely unique, I think, in Oregon.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are other contests around, but a lot of times they're not something that's just been done as an organizational gift to a community. That's why
That's a great way to put it.
that's why I'm a member of the Arts Alliance,
Right.
and hope anybody who I know you're a member of the Arts
Yeah.
Alliance too, wants to support art in all of its venues would become a member of Arts
I
Alliance?
was thinking it's
Arts
sort of
Alliance.
like the United Way. You
Yeah,
know,
of
is-
art.
Yeah, of art, because it's performance art, it's literature, it's music, and just every aspect that you can think of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and open to new things. Open
Oh yeah.
to
Well, this show,
Absolutely.
is supported by the Arts Alliance, and it was a new thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now it isn't anymore.
No.
We've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I don't want to. The thing about paper gardens also is I'm hoping that more adults will enter.
Really.
Um,
I mean, that's great, but yeah, explain that.
There are different times where, I mean, reaching out to the schools and the teachers, you know, the kids are there and stuff, and it's really good for them.
Right.
But it also is really good for the adults. Remember, there used to be a group that you were in that we did a filming of readers.
Is this the poetry thing?
It was a poetry group out on. It was held at a house. I can't remember his name. I think he's passed now.
Hank Slang.
Hank Sand. You know, in that group.
Yeah.
I forget what the name of it was.
Right, right.
But
Barbara
you know,
Drake was in that.
Barbara
Yeah.
Drake and a number of people were
Sure.
in that, and you know those kind of groups. I mean, those kind of groups, hopefully, and a number of them also entered and got in the paper gardens.
Sure.
And so I'm hoping that we can reach out to a number of groups to
Yeah,
do
Mike,
that.
I hadn't thought about that. I guess my assumption was that adults would just do it, but maybe not. Maybe we need to
Yeah.
reach out to it's the kids that I think is so important that
Oh,
they
yeah.
get involved. But there's that outreach effort. So
Right.
maybe you're right that
Yeah, there isn't as much. You know, we've hit up your group, Easy Riders,
Right.
for a donation
Yeah, yeah.
occasion. You know, and you guys come through.
yeah.
But yeah, the adults, they don't think of it. I mean, it's a beautiful book. It's well done.
Yeah.
There's a celebration. It's published.
Yeah.
It's a publication, and it helps the local writing thing.
It does, and I'll tell you, before we run out of time, I know these are two different things, but I think that there is a relationship, and that is terroir,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
which is sort of chronologically in the same time frame. And again, they're separate things, but they're really both sponsored by or assisted by Arts Alliance.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Sure.
they're basically committees of the
Yeah.
Arts Alliance, and yeah, Terroir is what, like 10, 11 years old now.
Yeah, that's Barbara Drake started
Yeah.
that.
And see, and that's how Arts Alliance works.
Yeah.
Barbara came in; she'd retired. She came in and said, "You know, I'd really like to do a writing
Sure.
festival." Okay, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she, you know, and here it is, 10 years later.
I think that first year we thought, gosh,
Remember
if we
that?
got 30 people, you know, that's a success. And it seems to me that we were up near 100. So that was quite something.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, they sold out last year.
We've sold out for a couple of years
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
And you know, and that room holds, I think, 147 people before
Okay.
the fire marshal says
Right.
stop.
Yeah.
So being sold out means 147 people.
And you know, I think along with that, something to be really proud of. Look at the keynote speakers. Look at the presenters. But I'm thinking about Kim Stafford last year.
Oh, wasn't he great?
He's terrific. Ursula Le Guin. Thank
yeah.
God that we got her to participate. Jean Aul.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
just big names and Little McMinnville, and we were able to do that.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's another on Paper Gardens. There's a real effort to pay presenters.
Mhm.
So I mean, just like Paper Gardens, some of the presenters
give it back.
Give it back.
Right.
But there's still this recognition. There's still this hey, you're you know you're valuable, and you deserve some meager
Yeah.
stipends. And we'll
sometimes
offer
it's not the money; it's the
recognition.
It's the recognition.
The sense that that we're just
we value you.
yeah. And I think that's there's a real effort, and with terroir, people pay a reasonable amount to enter. I mean,
It's low cost compared to other things.
Oh yeah. And it's they're workshops.
Sure.
And they're really valuable.
Sure.
For writers, and it also encourages. Unfortunately, it happens after Paper Gardens, but every year we try to remind people that hey, Paper Gardens is going to be coming around,
Right.
Because that's primarily an adult venue.
Yeah, we do encourage kids to participate. Well, not grade school, but middle school or high school.
Yeah.
I'm going to be presenting this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing?
The class is called The Novel as Process. And that was something that helped me so much. I would write short work, but I just couldn't sustain something of novel length until I took a class. It was the same kind of a festival, a writing festival. And I was lucky enough to stumble on a presentation by Elizabeth George, the crime novelist.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it just changed things for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have the same problem.
Yeah.
I can write.
Well, come to the presentation.
Yeah, well, I will be there.
Okay.
I definitely will be there.
Yeah.
Because my interest, I've been doing script writing
Right.
and stuff, and so I'm on the committee for
Right.
TWAR, and I was encouraging them to get a screenwriter.
Absolutely.
And Barbara Drake knew.
Really?
A screenwriter and one of the keynote speakers is a screenwriter, and then he's going to be doing a workshop.
Okay.
Because screenwriting is one of those things that is not literature. It's hard to read.
It's different. Yeah.
But it's ubiquitous in our screen-dominated
Mike, it has
culture.
changed. Film has changed literature.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so ubiquitous.
Yeah, and the script is the foundation of all of that.
Right.
Those.
Well, you
things.
and I have talked about the Saturday Film Club and so
yeah.
on, but we'll do this again and let's talk about screenwriting. In fact, Phil's going to be on here in a week or so, and we'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Paper Gardens.
Yep.
February 28th
Right.
is the deadline.
Get
it
your
in
stuff
before.
in,
Yeah, and hopefully they'll have it in their hand. Don't wait till the 28th to get a postmark.
No, don't do that. And I know during the show here we've put the application form up, but you can go to, I think, is it, Mike, do they have papergardens.com? Or,
No.
Or is it the Arts Alliance?
It's the Arts Alliance.
Okay, but artsalliance.com.
Yeah. Arts, I forget what the...
Is it Arts Alliance of Yamhill County?
Arts Alliance of Yamhill, and they don't put the county part in. They just say
Okay.
Arts Alliance Yamhill CO.
Okay.
For some
Well,
reason.
but with Google, I mean, you'll find it. And,
Oh, yeah.
Just apply.
Yeah, and then it's one of the things in the scroll down and
Sure.
and
Because there's so much going on.
yeah. When in fact we're talking about maybe making like with the tour and like TWAR has
Right.
their own.
Okay.
And
Split it off.
Yeah, and have it so that somebody can go right to there.
Okay. Okay.
In Paper Gardens.
Well, that's it for us. We're out of time. Mike, thank you so much. And just I
Yeah.
want to say on camera how much you've meant to the community, and I know
Yeah.
you're just so active, and a lot of this happens because of your efforts. So,
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
It's the only way to grow old.
well, let me know when you get there.
Well, I mean, staying active is the key.
Is perfect. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, folks, we got to go. But thank you so much for watching. Come on back and in fact, on my website, stephenwlong.com, our list of almost all of the shows we've ever done, and what we're coming up on 3 years now or something. So it's a lot. But thank you so much. We'll see you next time on The Writing Life. Bye-bye.